Hi, everyone, and welcome to TARDIScuss episode 10. It is the season finale, and we are discussing the Battle of Ranskoor of Kolos. Tonight, we are discussing what we thought of this episode. We've got a question of the week. We're going to dive into some trivia, some theories that we're going to break down and figure out what we're thinking. Tonight, I am drinking some dry cranberry soda. I brought the whole bottle. It's going to be a rough one, long one tonight. So, our question, I'm Emily, if I forgot to say that, it's the 10th episode. I would hope you would know that by now. Our question of the week is going to be, who out of all the companions ending, we're going to count Will, Captain Jack, all of the Mickey, everybody, whose was your favorite and the best? And do you have a least favorite ending? I'm going to let Lara and Lorena think on that. I'm going to go with Rose because she gets the other doctor in the other universe who will age with her. And there's a fan video that I love that goes along with it. And yeah, I love it. That's what I'm going to go with. Lorena, what about you? Who was your favorite companion ending?
Yeah, so I'm Lorena, drinking beer as always, and I am laughing because you were like, and your least favorite, and actually your favorite is my least favorite for like literally the same reason that it's your favorite. Well, I'll just quickly say, like, I don't like it because it's like consolation clone doctor instead of like real thing doctor. And so I just felt like, you know, she had made her choice and then like got sent to the other universe and, or, you know, dimension or whatever, parallel universe. Yeah. And so I thought that was like the best tragic ending ever. And I was super annoyed, I think, when like they have that whole second sequence. Anyway, but my favorite ending, it's between two. And so we all know Martha Jones is my favorite companion. And so she definitely ranks in my favorite endings. The first ending, the second ending is actually more bullshit than Rose's second ending. I'll just say that because her and Mickey is no. That's just like, I'm sorry, you have two Black actors, so make them a couple. No, like they had no reason to be together. She had a really, really hot fiance who was a pediatrician. That's who you marry because he was epic. Like he was epic.
Same. That was my least favorite. I forgot.
It's okay. I feel your energy. But her first ending, when she's like, peace out, and she tells the doctor this story about her roommate who was like in love with this dude who didn't care about her back. And so we get finally this closure for Martha in that she was like happy to, like, she was like, I'm over you. Like any of that I had still lingering, like you clearly don't have that, and I'm done. You know, we're done. And then she just wanted that closure. The doctor was like, what is going on? Cool. Awkwardness. And she's just doing it for her. And after she had saved literally the world. And so that she was like, I have this whole family I have to go take care of because they can remember the atrocity they went through for the last year and no one else can. And I'm the only person besides you, doctor, who can, you know, manage to like handle that emotionally. You know, when we meet her, her family's a mess. And now they're like together, but even worse off than they were at the beginning. To me, that was just like so true to her character and so honest. Like she's been through this journey with the doctor. She's saved the planet. You know, she's done all these things to discover about herself. And what is she going to do? She's going to take care of her family and keep kicking ass in her career. And I just love that that's her ending because she's so strong as a person before the Doctor enters her life, and then she's just even stronger on the other end. The other ending I like is Clara, because I love that she died, which sounds awful when you say it. But her death was such a cool, like that 3-part is some of the best writing the show's ever had. And yeah, I said it. Stephen wrote it. I said it. You heard it. But those 3 were like so, gosh, what's the word? They were just like really ballsy, like really experimental writing. That episode between Face the Raven and the final one was like such a risk. I mean, it's like just the Doctor on this, mind fuck basically. And so it's just like this amazing 3-part. And I almost kind of consider her ending to be all 3 of those episodes. And that like her and the Doctor have such a strange relationship where she was the impossible girl. She saved his existence essentially over the course of thousands of years. And then he's willing to go for millions of years to save her from death because he has a duty of care. And so they have this like really unhealthy relationship that Mee points out. And then she's just like, you know what? I'm not going to forget you. I'm not going to like, it's going to be a coin flip, basically. I'm going to reverse the polarity because that's what you do when you're a companion. And so she takes control of the situation, and like both of them are basically on equal terms at that point. And then he can't remember her. And it's just so tragic and beautiful. And then she gets into the TARDIS and she leaves, and she has infinite time. And I just thought that was such a cool way to end her, because it felt like she could keep going, but that if she stayed with him, they would destroy each other. And I loved that ending. It has this like, it's just really magical. And that part at the very end of that episode, when the TARDIS is leaving and like her picture dissolves, and I just like always cry when I watch it, because it's just really beautiful and sad at once. So like my 2 faves are faves for different reasons. But I think like Clara gets ragged on a lot, but I do think she is one of the stronger characters actually, and definitely one of the stronger companions. She goes through the most crap of everyone, way more than Rose dealt with. So Rose can have Clone Doctor, whatever. Laura?
So hi everyone, I am Laura. I'm drinking scotch tonight. It's the holidays, so I'm stressed and I need a lot of scotch. There's a bed behind me tonight as well, just in case I need to take a nap. So my best and worst companion ending are the same companions. So Amy and Rory are, in my opinion, the best ending because they get to stay together. And that made me really happy. And it's also the worst ending because that episode, Angels Take Manhattan, it just gets me like every time. It makes me cry really hard, and it hurts my feelings, and it hurts my heart, and I get really angry and emotional, and I'm just an asshole to deal with after I watch that episode. I don't like the fact that the Doctor is mean to River in that episode because I love River. But like, this just, I don't know. It's like a lot of emotions wrapped up between their ending. It's both good and bad. And that's where I'm at on that one.
Okay. Well, we have that all worked out. We have our frustrations out on how companions end, but luckily this episode I felt a little bit like 9. Everybody lives, Rose. Everybody lives. We did not have a companion ending. I think there were a few of us that felt we're like, where is this going to go? How is this going to work? So before we dive into this, be sure to, get on Twitter if you're following us with the hashtag TARDIScuss. On YouTube, we're there taking your comments. Stockholm, whoever you are, we're here. We're here. We were a little bit late, so thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us tonight. We're there. So really quickly, we are gonna dive in with our some quick non-episode plot stuff and some trivia. We did find out that Jodie and the companions will return for the 12th season, but not until early 2020. So they are going to be filming all of 2019. We are sad face for all of that. Our guest stars last night, or Sunday night, I watched last night, were Mark Addy as Paltraki. We discussed that he was Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones, and we misidentified him as the person who was in Love Actually. He is not. That is Gregor Fisher. So sorry for misleading you. They did kind of look alike. But, it's been a while. It's the holidays. We'll need to pull out Love Actually because it's, Christmas. And then Adenino, one of the Ucks, was Phyllis Logan, who is Mrs. Hughes from Downton Abbey. And Lorena was thinking, she's like, that's from Downton Abbey. Isn't that Matthew's mom, who was not Harriet Jones from Flydell North or Harriet Jones, Prime Minister. So we're going to dive into the TARDIS. This is the synopsis. And I'll get into this, the synopsis that was posted on IMDb, by BBC, every place else. But my hill starts here. I'm starting early tonight. Answering 9 separate distress calls, the Doctor and team arrive on the remnants of a brutal battlefield on the planet Ranskoor of Kolos. This planet has many secrets, an amnesiac commander, mysterious mists. Who or what are the Ucks? A deadly reckoning awaits the Doctor and the team once they have the answers. Let's get into it. I don't want to start. Laura, why don't you start? What are you rating the episode, and how did you feel?
I will happily start. So I am rating this episode a 9 out of 10 Tardi. There was only a smidgen of lazy writing this week, and I think throughout this entire season we've complained nonstop about lazy writing. There was some in this season. Since the BBC is not bringing the show back until 2020, maybe they can find some enthusiasm and not be lazy writers, since they're going to have an entire year to work on that. But not that I'm bitter. Not that I'm bitter. So I don't think that we didn't need the sniper bots this week. That was my lazy writing. Like, you didn't need that added tension. I'll get into more on that later. But I thought that Captain Paltraki was the bad guy from Rosa. And my husband thought the same thing too. So I know I'm not alone on this one. I might have just had my own little bit of amnesia and or planetary induced confusion. But I swear for 3/4 of this episode, we thought that it was very likely that he was the bad guy from Rosa that Ryan sent into the past. And I kept waiting for him, especially when he went off with Yaz. I kept waiting for him to kill her and go finish off the rest of the team and or betray the rest of the team. So I'm happy that didn't happen. And I'm also happy that I was really wrong and it wasn't the bad guy from Rosa, but that is still a loose end that never got tied up. And once again, just a bit of lazy writing. But I loved the Ucks, and I really hope that in 2020 we can meet up with them again. I thought they were just super cool. The characters, they're like the fact that they have all these like super amazing powers and they like kind of do their own thing, but like do it from a place of deep religious faith. I thought was a really interesting concept. And I liked the fact that they are super powerful, but yet they were able to be fooled by Tim Shaw, who is a weak coward. We know he's a coward because we saw that in the first episode of this season when he brought the eel thing and he had weapons and stuff for the hunt that he was doing. You're not supposed to have any weapons. You're supposed to be a, big manly stanza, and he couldn't do it without cheating. So it was a really cool kind of parallel for me that, you have these super powerful beings that are so advanced, but yet they were able to be fooled by a weak coward. And to me, that hits close to home here in America with our current political climate. But that's just Laura making everything political again. And finally, the other reason why I did rate this episode so high, even though there was quite a bit of things that didn't make sense or lazy and everything else, was the fact that we got the fist bump, guys. We got the fist bump. I was waiting for it. We got it. And it happened without Graham dying. I also thought for like a large portion of this episode that Graham was going to die. And so I was just prepared to be super pissed off, and even texted Emily and Lorena and was like, if Graham dies, I'm not talking to anybody. Like, I'm super pissed. So, I'm really happy that he had that moment where he talked to the doctor and said, I'm going to kill him. And the doctor was like, no, because it's the first time all season that we've seen the doctor throw down the doctor rules, like she did in the Ghost Monument with Ryan when she said she doesn't like guns and that she doesn't want them like around her, with her companions or anything like that. But then we had seen in the Partition episode that she was a little bit more lax on that. And, we talked on that briefly about, she's not really throwing around the rules that the doctors have had in the past. And it was a really interesting point when Ryan brought up to her, how come he's allowed to have a gun? How come, you jumped down my throat for it? And she said to him, like, wow, you were still new and I had to lay down the rules, first thing and see what kind of a person you were. And then she's like, don't listen to me. I make the rules up all the time. So that was like such a quintessential doctor moment. And I loved that. And I loved that she told Graham straight up, like, if you kill him, we're done. And, I don't think that had any bearing on whether or not Graham decided to kill Tim Shaw, but I do think that it forced him to think outside of his grief and how he felt about being faced with this monster that took his wife away from him, that, that he has to think about everything else. Ryan's going to be by himself with the doctor at that point, and Graham won't be there to keep an eye on him. And I think that might have had a factor in it, but also being told, like, you're a better man than that, and you're a better man than Tim Shaw, and, be better, be best. So I think she didn't change who he is or the decision that he would have ultimately made, but I think she helped him think it through a little bit more. And it was a really powerful moment in that episode. And I really liked that. I liked that we got to see the doctor rules, that we got to see Graham growing as a human being, because you're never too old to grow. And, also that Graham didn't die, because he is my fave. So, Emily, Lorena, who wants to go next?
I can jump in. So because there's a lot of us, I think Graham, not that Ryan isn't a favorite. I really love them all equally, and we have a whole section about Yaz and the doctor that we're going to get to later. But at the very beginning, I was really sort of surprised by why Graham questioned, why us? Why do we have to answer these distress calls? That surprised me after all the things that Graham had seen. It just seemed out of character. It I don't know. So before we start into that, I'm rating it 8 out of 10 Tardi. Um, I I don't know. I felt that it was out of character, but I started to say that it was out of character for Graham wanting vengeance. But Laura, you really, as you were talking, I was like, oh, that's a really good point. Okay, I can see that. So you have won me over onto some of your points. So I'm good with that. You are celebrating. I did have an issue where the doctor said rules change all the time, and I was frustrated by that because she won't do weapons, um, no guns, things like that, but she's handing out grenades or all these other things because you never know what's going to be in there. And if it's a wall or something that can be rebuilt, that's fine. That's not a problem. But what about the collateral damage? What, we didn't know what they were going into. If a wall falls and kills somebody in the process of that, what happens to all of that? You don't know what's on the other side of that. And here she is handing out grenades, handing out these other things and these blasters that could take out other people that are going to then perhaps suffer and die because of that, but though they are innocent as opposed to the people that they are wanting vengeance on. And I feel that they are two sides of the same sword. And so that really bothered me. Because I didn't feel that was very doctory. On just here, have all these other weapons of mass destruction that I'm not going to, make any rules about. So, um, while once we realized that they were planets in those minerals, when planets went missing before, there was a big uproar. Um, people were like, everybody noticed, and they're like, we have to go to the Shadow Proclamation, and so I was like, was a little bugged that nobody else had really made any sort of uproar over all the planets that had gone missing. So those are some things that I was really sort of bothered by, that it was super simple to I guess not simple to return the planets to where they were going, but we didn't even find out, and maybe because they didn't want to duplicate that, but we didn't know what the planets were. We didn't know, um, you know, because it was assumed that once those mineral form cages couldn't hold them, that their mass was going to replace them, and it was going to become a mess where they were. I don't know. I think I mentioned to Laura. I think one of the reasons the reason it feels, and I'm going to say it feels similar to Witchfinders to me, is there's so many things thrown into here, that there's plots and subplots, and it has so much that what is the heart of Doctor Who is getting lost. And I'm going to reference Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald here, that there is so much thrown in here that you have forgotten why you're actually watching the show. And I think, so referencing Witchfinders and referencing this, there are so many things that you're like, wait, amnesia, what? Who has amnesia? Where did the amnesia go? Oh, wait, neural stabilizers. Oh, balancers. What are those? Who needs them? Why do we have them? What are the mists? Who's the mists? Who invented wellies? All of these things that are just, it felt like an ADD episode. And maybe I have to give it 7. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm the wet blanket of the group. And I read online as I was trying to find the fist bump gif, which I loved. There were parts of it that I loved, but somebody wrote, I've read better fanfic than this. So I I laughed as somebody who edits amazing fan fiction. So there was one funny thing that I did find on Twitter. You know what, I'll bring that up later. I'm going to bring that up later. Lorena, what did you think?
So I'm not as harsh as you. And I do need to call you out really quick because I just rewatched our Crimes of Grindelwald chat recently. And you are like, I'm so glad there was so much happening because I'm so ADD and my brain was excited the whole time. So you're like knocking on Doctor Who right now for doing the thing that you just loved in Crimes of Grindelwald.
Okay. Okay.
That said, I don't actually disagree with your point. And I think that while there's a lot of troll noise happening from misogynistic dudes who are probably white, there are other non-troll horrible people who are not pleased with the writing this season. And I think, you know, we're kind of in that group. So, you know, there is like, I like some of the stuff, and we know that I really liked Witchfinders, and I loved the writing in that. I thought it was really clever. But I agree with your point that it's losing like the heart of the show. And I think that the direction Stephen Moffat took it is when that began. And so like the first season with Amy, it has it still. And then Amy's second season, when you introduce River to that mix as this enigmatic character, it just starts to move away from like what the show had been under Russell T Davies. And to me, like what the show kind of stands for in like a more simplistic way. And so the plots do get more complicated. There's so much information getting pushed on you. And I think your reference to Journey's End is excellent because I thought of, well, they referenced Journey's End in the episode. And I felt like your comment on that about they don't name the planets. Like, how can you not name the planets? You know, like this is Doctor Who. Like we know the name of every planet, you know, like part of the fun of Doctor Who is that like the twin planet of the really long word I can't say, and Rose had to practice for like 2 months, is like Clop. It's like the most boring, like one syllable, you know, planet, and it's hilarious.
Fallopotorius?
Say it again.
Raxacocoricofallapatorius?
Exactly. And so like the fact that the twin planet is like a single syllable that has like a plosive in it, it's just hilarious. Like it's just this, to me, that's like what makes Doctor Who this fun, clever, silly, ridiculous thing. And similar to Harry Potter, that it does take like part of the fun of Harry Potter is how ridiculous it is. It like words matter. And I think when you're in Tennant's season, and maybe it's just because we like Tennant's mouth a lot, I don't know. But like when you're in his seasons, like words you use, everything you say matters. Like there's a whole episode with Shakespeare where it's like words give meaning. And then they bring that back in Flatline with Capaldi, where he has to name the villain. I name you the, oh my God, I don't remember what he names them, but that's what he has to do in order to make them go away. So like this energy of small things being the point, it's like that, the humanity, we'll call it humanity for lack of an alien species term, of all this universe is like getting lost in the noise of shiny things, right? And so I definitely agree with that point, and I think that's been going on for much longer than Chibnall, and I was really hoping Chibs would like recapture that heart for us. way more than he has. So now I will give you my rating, as I'm already like 10 minutes into my diatribe here. No, I actually also ranked it 9 out of 10 Tardi. I really enjoyed this episode, even though it had these underlying issues. I'm not going to fault the episode for that, because I think that's a bigger issue, as I've literally just explained. But I really liked this episode, similarly to how I liked Witchfinders, which is probably why Emily and I are disagreeing on it. It felt really Doctor Who-y, and I felt like it had the arc that we look for in a classic Doctor Who story, and it had the importance of a finale. Like, Earth is going to be literally destroyed. Everyone on Earth is going to die. And it had that classic, like, we must save the people of Earth feeling to it, and only the Doctor can do it. And it kind of brought back the Davros feeling. So yeah, it was a lot like Journey's End. Now that we're like the stolen Earth and Journey's End. It brought back that Davros element of like this great opposition to the Doctor. But I think I'm gonna like hark on what Laura said. Like, Tim Shaw's a big coward, and he might have good technology, but he's a coward, and he sucks at most things. Like, he couldn't even become the leader without cheating. And so it's just like ridiculous that he can't really be compared to Davros, because Davros like revived an entire race of aliens, and then was like taking over the universe in the way he wanted to, and the Doctor just happened to try and stop him. It wasn't like this, like, I'm gonna seek vengeance on the Doctor situation. So yeah, I mean, they're not comparable characters. Davros is far superior, but at the same point, it had that same like opposition. You know, Davros really got under the Doctor's skin in the same way that Tim Shaw does. And she says that, she's like, he really bugs me. People like him, you know, that really bothers me. And so maybe she's just thinking of Davros. I don't know. But yeah, I did love that element of it, and that we had this like full circle for the season. Like, it felt right. It felt like a finale episode. And so that made me happy. Like, I was good with that. Other things I did enjoy was just the general concept of the Ux, and like that they were creators, and there's only 2 of them, and they live forever and ever. Like, they were truly like a god, like you know, like a Zeus type of energy, where they're just like this entity that can create life and create planets and new things. And that was a little weird that they were being used the way they were by Destinza or by Tim Shaw. But I did feel they were super interesting concept, and I love them. And I agree with Laura that they better, but I would love to see them in 2020 again. And then the other thing I thought was cool was the way that the ending, like how they handled Tim Shaw, and also just the general concept of putting these planets into stasis. And I think Emily, just to back reference one thing you had said, like, they put the planets back, but the people have been killed when they were put into stasis. So it would have been total genocide for all 5 of those planets. So I thought I definitely knocked it, because there were some unanswered things, and those are going to be hills we're getting to later. But I definitely did think that the 9 distress calls were from the planets, and then there were only 5 planets. So it's clearly not the case. So yeah, that was something that was weird. And then they made these like promo references to like mist, and then Ryan like calls out the mist, like, we're not going through that mist, you know. And then they do, but it was like so undramatic. Like they just walked through, like we didn't even see it happen. There was no point to the mist being there. It shouldn't have even been mentioned. And it's just like stuff like that. Like why did we waste 30 seconds on that dialogue when literally nothing occurred? Like we can just see mist and feel uncomfortable about it, and see Ryan be like, we're not going through that, are we? And then they do. And like, okay, but we don't need to talk about it beyond like, oh, that mist is creepy because it's mist. Like it's not magical mist, and we've had magical mist. So that was weird. It was weird to see elements that were destructive before have literally no purpose in this episode. So that definitely docked it for me, just a point, because the other stuff was more fun. And then just on Mark Addy, like I couldn't Robert Baratheon him as he was talking, they're walking, and it's like, it was like he was King Robert, and he was just like, I'm proclaiming this soliloquy, and here we go forth into the world. And I was just like, oh my God, you're so him, you're still him. I can't not see it. So that made me laugh. And then finally the fist bump, we got it, and nobody died, and it was beautiful. And we got an I love you out of Ryan. So that was really sweet. Yeah, that's my full recap. So I feel like I've taken all of our time. So I'm going to go on mute.
No, I want to talk about the Ux really quick, because that wasn't really a segment we had broken down in our outline, but you sort of talked about that they go on for millennia, and it doesn't, I didn't understand why they felt, with all the power that they had, that they needed a creator. And I know it took the Doctor to say, no, your purpose has been corrupted. And I obviously that was the case. Tim Shaw had done that and everything, but what more were your thoughts about that, and how the younger Delph was like, let's we need to see what's out there, we need to go do other see other things, and how they left it, and they're like, let's go, and Paltraki was like, we'll take them, we'll let them go see the world. What were your thoughts on that?
I have thoughts on that. So I thought it was really interesting that for the Ux, so they said that they can live for millennia. So we clearly have an older woman and a younger man as our Ux, and I think that it makes sense that you have this younger person, being the younger Ux, saying like, I can't do this anymore. We don't need to do this anymore. This is wrong. And you have this older Ux who has, we clearly don't know a lot about the species. So I'm making a giant assumption here that she appears to be older. Therefore, she has lived longer than the younger guy. And so you see this older Ux who has presumably lived a lot longer than he has, because I think in the beginning of the episode, she's teaching him, right? Like that's like right before Tim Shaw shows up, like she's showing him how to do stuff and kind of like mentoring him. So you have this situation where she's older, and I think, she could possibly be closer to the end of her time. And so she's looking for a creator, just like when human beings get closer to their time, whether it's from old age or terminal illness or something like that, you start to look kind of outside yourself and outside of things that you might have not paid as much attention to when you were doing other things, more consumed with work and family and stuff. And so you have this older Ux who maybe is looking for a creator. She's looking for something bigger to believe in at the end of her timeline. is kind of how I interpreted that whole situation, and why she would so deeply believe that this deeply flawed, weak coward is their creator and is something that she should believe in and follow. And she was uncomfortable with situations, but she really wasn't questioning anything. The only real question that she had was, how did Tim Shaw know who the doctor was? And so, you know, before then, you have your creator, and he's already destroyed 5 planets. And you didn't question that. You didn't feel uncomfortable with that. You just thought, well, this is the creator and his will is what we should do because he's the creator. Like, I got the impression that the younger guy, Delph, was not as hip to do that. So that's the feeling that I got from the Ux. Also, I have to say this. I also felt like the planets inside those little containers, the mineral things, did anyone else get a golden snitch vibe from that? Like how frantic they were inside of those containers? Because I did. And that falls directly into the lap of my fan theory, which is that golden snitches are just little teeny tiny fairies trapped inside a golden ball prison. So, sorry, I had to say it. Had to. Anyways, what do you guys think about my theory of maybe I can't say her name. The female Ux is maybe at the end of her timeline, and that's why she was so quick to believe, or easier to believe than Delph was. And so that would be really cool too, if in 2020 we did get more Ux, if we could see the end of her timeline and how a new Ux is created. You know, like, that would be super cool if we could just get a little bit more on those aliens, because they were really neat. I mean, we had a lot of Cybermen and Daleks and Weeping Angels and all the other aliens throughout the years. I mean, we could just bring back this one species. That would be super neat. Anyways, what do you guys think of my theory?
I definitely want to see more Ux, and I would be excited to see how they're created as well. But I actually thought pretty much the whole time, in it, I was like, okay, this is plot. We're watching plot. But like thinking about it, I felt it was just a commentary on religion and on blind faith. And as you were like, how you were saying it, the older one and the younger one. And it felt like it was a critique on like blindly following a religion that is leading you to destruction and not questioning it because you don't feel you can. And it, you know, that was definitely what led to a lot of murder, massive murder in this planet's history. So, you know, it definitely is something to, I think about. And I felt like the naivety of these two Ux who were on the same planet for so long and walking, and it was pretty it didn't seem like much was happening on this planet. Like they didn't, you know, Paltraki would reference his planet, and like they had wildlife and like things were cool and it was a good place, beautiful. This planet was not that, you know, it was very, you know, desolate, if you will. And yeah, it was like, why would you want to be here forever? And if you were only there and didn't leave it, despite being able to create anything and leave, like what would you think of the world? And so, or the universe. And so it's just interesting that they had been there for thousands of years without stepping out to see more. And I think the potential to see the Ux again, to me, is high, because they are going off to explore more, and they have the potential to do really drastic change. So I would like to see more, but I definitely viewed it as a critique on on like organized faith, and like a blind faith, like trusting in, I don't want to say trusting in a higher being, but trusting in text or a person, like a preacher who's supposed to be ordained by this higher being to, you know, lead you the way you're supposed to go. And like, they were just saying, you know, all isn't it. That's how I interpreted it. You know, it didn't get that deep into it other than question things probably. So you don't like kill 5 planets worth of people, but like, you know, I don't know. That was my take. I didn't think it was too like, I don't know. Emily?
Okay. I have 2 things that I want to talk about. So a little bit, one, the planet is Ranskoor of Kolos. And when the doctor translated it, it said it was called the Disintegrator of the Soul, which we didn't touch on. So I thought that was interesting. Do you think it had that name before Tim Shaw got there? And the other thing, if you know, I also agree with you, Lorena, that the planets, once they were shrunk and then reinstated, that the inhabitants were killed. If that was genocide, and I don't think the doctor would let that go, and I just feel that putting Tim Shaw in a stasis chamber is like that's just not something I feel the doctor would just, okay, we're just leaving him on a planet on a stasis in a stasis chamber. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I just
right,
felt
like what could possibly go wrong?
Right, because
leaving
the
this
hand
tree prison unattended.
Right. Because the hand just came out on the thing and I was like, I don't know. Something about this feels like he'll be back. And, you know, I don't know.
For the Ux, though, like, I think that for as cool as they are, and that their religion, their faith, whatever is like what led them, it's so deeply flawed to ever believe in anything so fundamentally that it would lead you to kill 5 planets worth of people. I think the other deep flaw with that species is the fact that there's only 2 of them. Because maybe if there was, I don't know, like 3 Ux, then it could have been like can we take a vote on whether we think this is appropriate to do or not? Because instead
Checks and balances.
Yes, checks and balances. This is why we have them. So, you know,
we have them still.
I mean, time will tell. Time will tell if we still have them. But, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like you're any fundamentalism that you do is not constructive. It is destructive. And so, you know, when you have a species that's only 2 in the species and that they are as powerful as the Ux, you would think that they would maybe be a little bit more discerning on who they decide is their creator or a creator, or I don't know, even just like a person that they should maybe talk to. Because I feel like you've lived for so long and you didn't pick up on the fact that Tim Shaw is a shitbag, like with teeth embedded in his face. Come on. This is we're better than this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So really quickly, Samuel Oatley is the actor who plays Tim Shaw. So I think we should give him a shout out for the man who has to sit in the prosthetics chair and have all of the teeth applied to him. So Samuel Oatley, you were a brave man.
Yes, you are, because that tooth on the tip of his nose, it just, when they were doing the intense close-ups of his face and that was like kind of just moving around just a little bit. Oh, God, I just wanted to puke. It was awful. there's just some really skilled people that work for Doctor Who in like the set design and everything department. Like, y'all are definitely not lazy.
Hey, and not wasted prosthetics, like not wasted on ribbons this week. So
yes,
front and center.
Let's continue with this shout out of set makers because we finally got to see more of the TARDIS set.
And
the clap on.
Yeah.
Yes. I had that.
Clap on lights.
I loved it. I was like, clap on.
Oh my gosh. And like everything just ready to go. Like they just did a snap, clap.
Yeah.
You know,
we didn't have weirdly phallic Himalayan salt crystals that were pumping and yeah, we didn't have that. So that was
really quickly, I had to ask when the mask was and the breathing, did you have Darth Vader?
As soon as we heard the I was like, we're going there. Like, I know it's gonna be Tim Shaw, because who else can it be? But like,
right.
Has he lost like, and he was like on a dilator or whatever, like what was happening? He couldn't even. And he had his like bug face mask. Maybe they never can breathe though. Like that, maybe that's something. Right. Because, actually, speaking of crap that came up and never got discussed, when they were walking, what's his face? Ryan was like, "Oh, I'm lightheaded." Was that this episode? Am I
no, that's with the neural in. What were they?
Yeah,
called?
but it wasn't even. It was like once they were outside, and he's like, "Oh, I'm lightheaded now," and they're like, "You all right?" He's like, "Well, I'll be," and then someone else can't breathe. Like, what is the? Was the air bad? I don't know.
Mist.
Yeah, the undefined mist.
The mist that was important enough to name in the synopsis, but yet not important enough to address the entire fucking episode.
Right. They even had to walk back through it to get to the ship. Like,
run through it, not walk through it, run through it.
Right.
I recant my rating of this episode.
It's just, but these are small parts. This made up like what, 3 minutes of the whole thing.
Right, but it was 3 minutes that like took an otherwise phenomenal concept and episode and just dumbed it down, rushed it up, and just like, let's just shove more shit in this sack and see if it'll hold. And so that's why I officially am saying that my rating is now a 7.5 out of 10 Tardai.
Welcome to my side.
Yes.
So
Emily corrected me.
I know we're coming up on our hour, but maybe we'll go over it. I want to say this because we talked about Journeys In. Well, I did, and Emily vaguely mentioned it. But do we think that this episode could have been strengthened by being a two-parter?
Yes.
Yes, 100%. I was thinking that while you guys were talking, that like if they had done a 2-part episode, we could have gotten more information on how Tim Shaw was able to swindle these super powerful beings into being awful, or at least one of them, 50% of the species, into being awful. We could have gotten more information on, like the mist that they felt like they had to mention in the synopsis. Don't do that, by the way. It's like going and seeing a movie because the trailer is so good and then everything that was great in the trailer isn't actually in the movie. That shit pisses me off. You know
Aquaman.
what?
Wait, Aquaman came out already?
No, sorry.
We don't even have to watch Aquaman to know that shit's going to be awful. So 6 out of 10 Tardai. We have to wrap up our episode of TARDIScuss because by the end I'm going to be down to like 3 out of 10 Tardai. But now I'm at 6 out of 10. If they had done a 2-parter, it would have just done this season and the cast of this season and the Stenza themselves and the Ux themselves such a great, like, it just would have been so much better. And they didn't do that. Like, why? Do you think they're trying not to do that?
Well, they intentionally said, at the panel, they said, Chips was like, we're only doing 1-parters. Okay, cool. But like, if you're only doing 1-parters, you better Madame de Pompadour it. Because if you can't, then you shouldn't be doing 1-parters, first of all. Second of all, like, always we get a 2-part finale, except the Clara ending that I spent like 30 minutes on. And it's so good. Like, it's always good to have this 2-part, like, it's really like intense. And I felt like the energy and the concept of this fit a finale episode, but I wanted more Stenza. Like, if you're going to introduce teeth on the face, like, unless this guy, what's his name, Samuel, is suing because like he now has like permanent disfiguration or something due to this prosthetic, like, you need to be showing us a ton of teeth face people who are blue, or maybe they're not all blue. Maybe just Tim Shaw is. We don't know. We've never met any more Stenza. Like, I want to see the Stenza, like, let's go to a Stenza battleship. Like, what are we doing? I've seen $1 billion and $1 billion get disintegrated by Rose's love. Like, let's freaking commit here and really build another villain. Like, not just Tim Shaw, that's a person. Like, build a villain. Like, this species is another Nazi species. Like, why aren't we exploring this as far as we can? And maybe it'll be in the New Year's episode, but it could have been here and it wasn't. And I expected it when we were in episode 1 and we met Tim, and then he gets thrown off and sent away and back to where he came from. We thought, no, apparently he went to this other planet. Maybe this was his planet. I don't know. It just was like, why don't we get to meet more Stenza? And I was certain we would in the finale, and then we did not. So I was disappointed in that. I'm not going to dock it, but I do think the 2-parter, if they had just said, you know what, only the finale will be a 2-parter, you know, that would have strengthened this. We could have spent time in the mist. It would have been like this creepy thing, like when you go through the forest in the Time of the Angels one, where Amy first meets River. And like, there's really no point except that it's scary. Like, that's literally the only reason. And for like a Stephen Moffat moment, but like, otherwise there's no point to go through this forest. And we could have that, and it would be great. Like, that's why we like Doctor Who, because it's a little bit creepy. And having sniper bots come and everyone duck like you're getting stupefied by horrors, like, no, dumb. Like, that's boring. We've seen it on episode 2. Like, give us something interesting, give us something creepier, and then put us into sniper bots, because we can take it all. We like shiny things. At least Emily does, if she has more time to experience them.
I agree with you. You know how, like, the silence and that season, you constantly heard the silence are coming, or the silence will fall, or something along those lines. We even had, 3 or 4 of them appear in several different iterations. And then let's talk about the Centaurans. We saw Centauran armies, and those were potato head clones. Okay. Laura, you're cracking up.
I liked the Centaurans. I thought they were so great because they all looked like potato.
Yes, Strax is hysterical.
Strax is my favorite.
So, to give us some background, we know about the Centaurans because they gave us some background. And I totally agree with you that we should have had, a little bit more, like, show us what happened before Tim Shaw showed up in Sheffield. And, suddenly they show up there, and then we see them end up on Ranskoor of Kolos. We're smart viewers. Obviously, we've stuck around with it from either 2006, 7, 8, 9, 5, whatever, or 1963. We've been here. We're, people are here. We're going to do this. I know it's 6:30 or 9:30. Really quickly, we've got a couple of other things. Yaz and the Doctor. Space girlfriends. Yes. Do we love? Lorena, what do you want to talk about?
I mean, I'm not gonna throw any kind of like relationship in. I think that I said it though. I want to say this past one or the one before it, that I felt like Yaz was the most companion-y of the companions. Maybe I said it last week and I felt it in Witchfinders and then it like continued. I think the idea of her being like in love with the Doctor was planted by her mom. So I'm not gonna like cling on to that too hard because you know how moms can be. But it was like she reminds me of like Amy when Amy's like first with the Doctor and she just like loves the Doctor and is like, we got to hang out all the time and you're the coolest and this is so fun and everything's the best and this is just the best. And it was like that energy. And I feel like Ryan and Graham don't have that. I feel like they're on their own journey together. That culminated in I love you and a fist bump. And then Graham's like, now what do we do? But like the Yaz relationship, you know, she doesn't have that journey with them. She's there for the Doctor. And that to me is like why she feels the most companion-y. So I don't know if I'll call them like girlfriends because I don't even know what your Tumblr is going for with that. Not your personal Tumblr, but the Tumblr you found called Space Girlfriends. But like they have that fun like BFF energy of like we're in it, and Yaz is like in it. And I felt like if Graham and Ryan left, Yaz would stay. And that's kind of, I actually thought that was where we were going to go until they announced that all of them were coming back. So way to ruin that before we saw the episode, but cool. Yeah, that's how I feel with Yaz. And I think that she's like, she had a line here where the Doctor's like, get back in the TARDIS, like, you know, go help them, go be safe, like whatever. And she's like, no, I'm here. I'm with you to the end. And like that to me defines like how Yaz feels about her role and her like about the Doctor is like, she's all in and she's good with that. So those are my Yaz feelings.
I felt it was like Bucky and Cap. I'm with you till the end of the line.
Can I throw out a question to your feelings, Lorena? So do you think that, because like you said, I 100% agree, like Ryan and Graham are like, they're doing their own thing. They're working through their grief and they're working through their new relationship. And I say that like their post-Grace relationship, they have to figure out that dynamic. So do you think that Yaz is like 110% in with the Doctor because she is very unfulfilled in her life? Whereas Ryan, beforehand, he just gave me the impression in like the first episode that he was the kind of guy that just kind of goes with the flow. You know what I mean? Like he's just kind of like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm working in this warehouse and, you know, like whatever. And we get the impression, at least I did from Yaz, that she's searching for more. She wanted to have more responsibilities as her job as a police officer. She didn't want to be dealing with people's parking disputes. And so now, you know, I feel like she can be more of a person. I don't know. She can grow as a human being with the Doctor in the way that she wants to grow. Does that make sense? Like I see her kind of going along with the Doctor more because she's looking for something to fulfill her. And maybe that's what she's finding with the Doctor.
Yeah. And maybe like what you're saying, I think is exactly right. And maybe that's why she feels the most companion-y, because all of the other companions, that's why they travel with the Doctor. They are looking for something more than what they have. And like, I think Martha might be the only one who was probably in a good place, but she was kind of looking to escape in a way from her crazy family. And I think Yaz, I mentioned it in the first time we meet Yaz's family, which I think is the episode you couldn't watch all of, that she is like, you know, she mentions that she like can't deal with it. Like her family drives her crazy. Right. And we get that right away. And that was Martha Jones' family. Like, they weren't the worst people ever, but they were just like, ah. And she was like the sane person. And I feel like Yaz is kind of that, like, most successful, but because she's not married, they view her as unsuccessful. So she's like always working against expectation, even though she's, you know, fulfilling her grandma's dreams. We are learning. But I do think definitely she is on this journey for herself, and she really admires the doctor. And it has that, first it was just like, okay, I do think she's an alien, yeah. And then it just is like growing, and like how the doctor like met her, she's like, I'm calling you Yaz because we're friends now. And just like right away, she clung right onto Yaz and was like, okay, you feel like you're super in charge, but I'm actually in charge. But how do I bring that up to you in a polite way that you're going to accept? And she did it. And I think that was like, Yaz was like, okay, this is someone who's in authority, who can give me more leadership and give me more power and more like agency to do what I want. And she's not going to stop me when I go to check out the mud people. I'm going to go talk to that girl who we met and her grandma just died. I'm going to go talk to her. Okay, see ya. Like, check back in. You know, like, it wasn't, you know, she's like able to do these things. I feel like the doctor can rely on Yaz, and that Yaz likes that. She likes her dynamic with the doctor. And I feel like, to me, they're like very thick as thieves. I have like, it didn't start until this moment, but like now I have this headcanon of them in the TARDIS. And since we have no TARDIS time, I can just like create anything I want. Where they just like hang out and like they're more friends than, you know, Graham and Ryan. I don't know. I feel like
out by the pool.
That's where I was going, because who doesn't go to the swimming pool? I guess you could go to the library, but I don't view Yaz as someone who goes to the library. Most of the companions aren't library people. They're a lot more Gryffindor than that. But I feel like I wouldn't be sad if Graham and Ryan stayed on Earth. And we saw them here and again when we visited Sheffield, but that Yaz was the only companion. I would be fine with that. And I think it might strengthen the stories a little bit, because we wouldn't have to spend time on so many plots, because we'd only have 2 characters we actually have to care about. Or we could do 2-parters. One of the 2 options. Okay. Not that I don't love Graham and Ryan.
Right. Well, that sort of, you know, that was a great little aside. I'm not going to call that any sort of a hill that you're going to die on. I loved, you know, that's a great companion piece about companions. So let's talk about episode hills we're going to die on, and then we have to end, but it is not the end, dear listeners. So episode hills we're going to die on. Mine is a minor hill because we've picked apart this episode. So my minor hill is amnesia. If you say someone has amnesia, because they billed it as amnesia, and they've sent 9 separate distress calls, and they don't remember sending these distress calls, let that play out. Don't suddenly resolve the amnesia with a little neural transmitter thingy patch that you put on their head and suddenly everything is fixed. I was really annoyed that it was suddenly fixed and he no longer had amnesia. I really thought the amnesia would be something fascinating to play out, and I was annoyed by that. That's my hill, amnesia. Lara, what's your hill?
I'm going to get to my hill, but first I have to say this. It was the planet's, or no, the Ux's psychotropic waves, right? That were like causing the amnesia. So I agree, the word amnesia was not the appropriate word to use there. But that's kind of like the why, and that's why the neurotransmitter fixed it, because it disrupted the psychic waves, or however they said it.
Right. And it didn't come back immediately. Like, he didn't suddenly remember everything. It took him a while to remember stuff.
Right.
So we see your hill, but we have brought it back down to a small mound.
Then how could the little thingies work on the Ux?
Because it, when they put it on the Ux, they were like in a mental mind loop with each other, and because their eyes were glowing, so they were using their powers. So when they put the patches on, it disrupted their mental mind loopy things that they were doing together. Basically, it's like when someone's concentrating super hard and you go in and you start like banging a pot and pan together, and
But they mentally could create things. They could create things with their mind. So by disrupting that stopped them from destroying the earth through the Synopsis technology, which was powered by their minds.
Yeah. And the side effect of that, of them being able to create things with their mind, was the psychotropic waves that they were having. So
and everybody else had amnesia.
It wasn't amnesia, though.
Yeah,
it was that they slowly were just like couldn't.
It was a poor word choice, I think, that the writers used.
I don't remember the word choice, so I'll have to rewatch it and see if it wasn't just Emily inventing it for a hill.
I'm sorry. Shall I scroll back up to the?
Is it in the synopsis?
Is it in the synopsis?
In the synopsis.
Well, fuck that synopsis, because that synopsis was written by someone who had not seen the episode.
Exactly.
Amnesiac Commander.
All right. Well, that's it. I'm calling you out for not watching it and just reading the synopsis, Emily. Because
clearly the synopsis is deeply flawed, just like the Ux and Tim Shaw. But my hill this week is not deeply flawed. Sorry, Emily. My hill this week is that we didn't need the robots. And y'all know I have a robot prejudice that I have come to realize I actually have throughout this season of TARDIScuss. It's not my prejudice here that's speaking, okay? This is just pure logic. Stick with me on this one. We didn't need the robots. What did they do? They created just a little bit of tension, right? Once again, to what Lorena and Emily have been saying, we're a smart audience, okay? People that watch Doctor Who are smart audience. We're cool with thinking things out. We're cool with some episodes you have to watch 2 and 3 times to really fully grasp everything. We're cool with that. We don't need robots to create a tension there that doesn't need to be there, okay? We have Tim Shaw doing weird things. We have this crazy species that there's only 2 of that ever exist at a single point in time, okay? We got a battlefield. We have the mist that we're trying to figure out if it's actually a thing we have. We have an amnesiac captain who's not really an amnesiac. We have a lot of things happening. We don't need robots to create the tension of, like Lorena said, you literally had the robots just so they could shoot at each other. And that's just, come on, that's dumb. That's really dumb. And so that they could solder through the door. You could easily have a little bot come out and solder through the door to create the same tension that the sniper bots created. This is lazy writing, friends. This is lazy writing. If you are writing for Doctor Who, you're not supposed to be a lazy writer. Y'all, BBC, call me. Call us. Call all of us. We got you. Fam. Anyways, that's my hill. I will die on it. And I'm okay with that.
Lorena, do you have a hill?
I don't have a hill, but I do have a little thing I forgot to say about my Yaslov. Was in Laura saying fam reminded me of it, was that at the end and the doctor's all, yeah, come on, fam. And Ryan's like, wait, I thought we weren't doing that. We were doing team or whatever. And Yas is like, I'm good with fam. And I was just like, okay, she loves you. So maybe I am shipping that. I don't know. All right.
Really quickly, I saw a fan theory. Lorena debunked it before we got this on, so I'm not bringing up that fan theory. But his name is Hipster Shambles. But seeing as Series 12 will be airing in 2020, it was speculated that Jack Robertson, Chris Noth from the episode that shall not be named because it terrified Lara, might crop up again since it's going to be during 2020 when he is supposed to be running for president, which I thought would be a really funny throwback. And Chris has stated that he would love to return to Doctor Who in the future. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's cool. I'd like to actually see his character and enjoy it without me screaming and puking and hyperventilating. But, you know, I'm just going to say that we could have done without that episode and had the two-parter finale. Because that episode, other than introducing Yaz's family, which was then done in the partition episode, really didn't do anything for this entire season. So just going to go ahead and throw that out there. I mean, I barely watched it, and I don't feel like I've missed anything.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, I don't think you missed too much. I love Chris Noth, but I don't like Donald Trump, and I don't really want to have to watch that character play out again in another episode. And I'm really pissed off that the Doctor didn't take him down. And doesn't mean kill him. That means take him out of a stance of power.
With just one sentence.
The Doctor taking him out of running for president.
That needed to already happen in the Spider episode. Like, there's no reason it didn't happen other than annoying writing or choices they made. And I don't like for them to not do it just so they could bring it back and do it. No, like, I don't need that. I can't even watch the news. It pisses me off too much. So, like, no.
Okay. Lara, did you have a thought?
I agree. Like, I don't even have cable. Okay, I had to buy this season on Amazon Prime, and I already see too much coverage of Trump and all of that shit show. And I don't need to see that again in 2020. So hopefully it won't happen. I think that, you know, they left the door open, so to say, where she could take him down with just a sentence, the way that 10 did. That was 10, right? 10. Uh-huh. Yes. That was like one of the most badass moments of this entire show. So, you know, I don't need to see it to bring it back. To me, it's just kind of another bit of lazy writing, and hopefully that won't continue in 2020. Because you know what they say, hindsight is 2020. So hopefully hindsight will tell them not to hire lazy writers.
Maybe they should go get their vision checked so they can see the future with clear eyes.
See? You can look into the past, you can see the future. We can enjoy the present as long as we don't have lazy writing. So, but yeah, when are we coming back to discuss more TARDIS?
So we've got the next episode is the New Year's episode. For anybody listening or watching, we are going to have to get back to you on that because we need to talk amongst ourselves and figure that out. Because we normally come to you on Tuesday nights, but New Year's Day is a Tuesday. And so we need to be able to watch it and then get back to you and find a time that works for all of us in the new year, 2019, to do that. So we will figure that out. And we may have a bonus episode. We'll let you know. Because we still have lots to talk about. We want to talk about sexism. We want to talk about racism. We want to talk about all the themes and perhaps some more lazy writing and other things that are on our mind about anything into the TARDIS. And I've gotten some texts from other people who are listening. We've got things that we want to talk about into the TARDIS. So we'll come at you with a bonus episode. So watch for that on the socials. Follow us with the hashtag TARDIScuss, and we'll see you soon. Bye.